Dun, 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 Hi, I'm Aaron Moore, and welcome to an interview on Aaron Moore.
It's true.
We're hoping to get a little more Aaron Moore.
Yeah.
So
Why not? Why not?
I've got a fever.
And only Aaron.
And only Aaron Moore.
The moment I wake up,
Wow.
get my smiley face cup, I save a little bit for Aaron, and ever, forever, you'll be in my heart. I know what? No, I said I was going to behave, and I'm going to behave.
We haven't gotten to wrestling yet, so it's all right.
All right.
No wrestling moves being done in studio.
Not yet. Not yet, David. Not yet.
So you were on last year, which is odd that it's been sort of so long and all, but you've been obviously busy, but you've got a lot of stuff coming up in the next few months, this month particularly. But what's been going on? What's this year been for you?
What hasn't it been? It's been a roller coaster of emotion and projects. No. So last time we spoke, we did. I was in the midst of Miss Martha Washington with the Black Theater Troupe of Upstate New York, which was this fabulous, wonderful project. And was great. And now I am in the midst of Whitewash, which is a theater documentary piece about African American history in America that has been whitewashed. And we've been doing that since September. Yeah. We started out with 3 shows, which were really great. We sold out 2 of those 3 shows, and people have loved the project so much. And why shouldn't they? The actors are great. The director, Michael Kennedy, is really great, and they've asked for us back. So we've added on several more shows after those 3 shows. I'm going to be but unfortunately my last one is going to be this weekend, February 1st. We're going to be at Alpaca Gallery. That show is unfortunately sold out. But the show will continue. It will continue. It's I think the next one is going to be in March. Yep. So look out for that. It's Facebook, Creative Action Unlimited. It's on Facebook, so all the details for the show should be there. But this weekend is going to be my last show, unfortunately. But I've had such a blast, and it has been such a roller coaster of emotion from just the theater aspect of it to the theme and marks of the show. It's something I'm going to miss, but I've had such a wild ride with it.
I mean, we had Dee Collin and other folks involved on as it was. During the first 3 shows, and man, it was. I mean, obviously it's extremely intense, but then we saw the reaction that Richard was taking photos at the show at the Alpaca Gallery, and there were tears in the audience. You saw people really, and then I talked to folks about what was going on with it, and obviously the actors are going through a lot. Yeah. And so, do you sign on for more? Like, it was obviously some folks were like, I don't know how long I can do this because it does seem so intense and it is such an emotional load. So are you doing it because of schedule reasons, jumping off? Or, I mean, are you sort of, what has it done? I mean, what has it done to you in that process? It seems really cathartic.
It's been, I would say this, it's been such a space of relief and openness and safety and expression to be unapologetically Black in open spaces here in the Capital District and perform that. We get so, there's chances that pop up here and there more than they have been before, but the balance is still so off tilt. This has been such, great experience to fully be in that and express the hurt and the pain and the joy and the love and the laughter of blackness, of being Black. So it's been, like I said, such a wild ride. So many emotions have gone into this. We talk about slavery and the impact of it. We talk about rape and the impact of it over the years. We talk about being silenced. And I definitely have felt such, like I said, a roller coaster of emotion from it. I would say the reason that I'm sort of taking a stand back from it, is a couple. One being, I felt that I got it out, and I'm so grateful for that. And it's such a gift that I'm like, oh, I've got it out. I finally have taken that deep breath, or I finally exhaled, rather. The second being was I was talking to another black actor in the community, and we were just talking about all the stuff we were doing. And I said, well, I'm in the middle of Whitewash, was going great. Like, we're selling out shows left and right, and so many people are talking about it. And, they're loving it. It's so great. I'm like, well, what are you doing? And we were talking. He was like, well, I'm not really doing anything. There's really nothing out there that I want to do, or there's really nothing out there that they're looking for, someone like me. So I'm kind of just, waiting. And it got me thinking that, especially the last time I was here, I was talking about how there aren't roles for, black actors out there, especially in the area, not a lot. And here's this great role that's looks like it's going to keep continuing. And I've gotten what I've needed out of it. And I felt that maybe it was time for somebody else to have that opportunity, for somebody else to get that gift that I got when I first came upon this venture. And I thought that was really important, that I put my money where my mouth is. And I don't want to say sacrifice, but sort of pass the baton off to somebody else to go, I got this amazing thing, it's your turn now. So I felt that was really important.
I mean, that's brave. It seems pretty...
Well, it's also interesting because it just keeps highlighting that, like, why aren't there more shows where people would be able to be doing this at the same time? Like, if that's one person who now gets to play that role, like, I'm sure there are so many other people out there who are like, oh, I wish I had that too. So it's like, there's only got to be more people. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But you are moving on. You're doing a reading, right, later this month?
Yes, so I'm doing...
We're not in February yet.
Right.
I keep forgetting.
It's sneaking upon us. So I'm doing February 7th, I'm directing a stage reading of The Meeting, which is a play that was written in the early 80s. And it's about a conversation, one-night conversation between Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. So obviously, right then and there, two powerhouses, and they talk about their different views on the civil rights movement and just life in general, and fear and anger and violence and hurt and love and so many things that happen in this one hotel room that they have this conversation. So that's going to be February 7th at 6:30 at the Armory at Sage College on Albany campus. So I'm directing that, and that's with a partnership with Sage and the Black Theater Troupe of Upstate New York.
Yeah, I talked to Remy about it a little bit.
Yes.
And obviously it's a powerful piece, and I think people should get out there. But there should also be, as we're talking about, there should be more opportunity throughout the year.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
But it is really, I think it really says something, though, that Whitewashed has been able to continue and has gotten the interest and excitement. I mean, there are people who feel like this is a really important work of art, and it, and to know that there's something that could be staged again should this come to an end, but and fill that sort of need. It's powerful. I mean, just looking at the photos and knowing talking to people who've gone, and it seems like it's not your typical.
No, it's. Luckily, people are looking at Whitewash outside of Black History Month.
Yeah.
And we are coming up on that good old time
of just like packing
Black
everything
history,
in and then
being done with it, and just sort of like, well, hey, we did it, relax, we did it. So that's when we shine. That's when I was talking to a whole bunch of Black performers in the area, and we're like, that's when like our busiest month.
Get all
the phone's going off the hook. Hey, we need a Martin Luther King. You think you can, phone going off the hook? And that's when we're wanted. And then right when it's like the end of February, it's like March 1st, it's like, yeah, you had a month.
See you next year.
You had a month. Hey, don't be selfish. Don't be selfish.
Listen, make room for the rest of us.
Exactly.
Already.
It's like we all need to work too. Okay. And I was telling another former friend of mine, I was like, I charge double in Black History Month. Like you need me to be Frederick Douglass? That's going to be double my price. You need me to read Martin Luther King's speech? That's going to be double that price. And people thought I was joking. I really have. I've contacted a couple people, and I said, well, that's double my price. And they're like, oh, well, yeah. It's like, if you're only going to hit me up during this time, then this is what you get.
Is there a way? Are there any? I mean, it seems like just knowing more about whitewash and what went into it, and having everyone sit there and really pour their, do research and pour themselves into it, that it's not obviously something that's just going to be replicated like that.
Right.
But are there any lessons that are like about what an audience wants, or like how you can get people to show up for it? Or, I mean, obviously Michael Kennedy is giving, sort of creating that space, but is there a takeaway about how that space can be created more, or how?
Well, what she did was really, really important. Was she had this idea that she wanted to present, but she didn't. Looking for the right word. She didn't take the lead on it. Like she directed it, of course, and she took that role in directing it, but she didn't take the lead, and she still doesn't. As much success as it's gotten now, she still doesn't take the lead. This is, we from the first meeting all the way to this up and coming performance, it's been an actor's play, especially a Black actor's play. It's been what do we want to go into it? What do we want to express in the show? What do we want the audience to take back from the show? Like, what are our goals from start to finish, from the opening all the way to the curtain call, and then to even on to the talk back? What do we want to leave our audience with? So I think what really stood out for Whitewashed was it's an actors driven show. And I think that's really important. And it tells stories, and it doesn't tell white controlled stories. It's like, well, I think people want to see this aspect of Black people, or I think people want to, there's no white splaining. Shouts out to D. Collins. I told her I would take that and I would give her credit. So she can't. But there's no white splaining this story.
Yeah.
And that's really important. It's really heartfelt, and people can see, like, people can feel. Audience that watch this show, Black or white, particularly Black, can see that and kind of go, oh my God, I do that, or I say that, or I see this, or I've been part of that, or that's how I feel, and that's how I felt, and that really shows, throughout anything that's sort of geared towards Black audiences, but it's provided and it's created by Black people, so that it shows, and I think that the work speaks for itself.
We were talking, obviously, earlier about Katie's recent article on Toni Morrison's Dreaming Emmett and the staging in 1986. And I know you had mentioned on Facebook that your aunt had seen it. Yeah, she saw that, and it's so interesting, the things that you hear and you don't really pay attention to, you put in the back of your mind. My aunt Wanda was a performer, and she studied theater out in Buffalo, and she performed out in Buffalo, and she was so many things, which I am continuously learning. She was a lounge singer. She was a makeup artist, a costume designer, an actress, a director, a writer. She was so many things. And when she came to Albany, she had, brought that same love for theater. And we were talking, this was years ago, we were talking about all the things that we had a conversation about how all like the theater things that were happening in Albany. And she was telling me the story how she went to go see this play by this up and coming author in Albany, and it was really great, and it was about Emmett Till, and I was kind of half listening to it when she told me. I was like, oh, that's great, yes. And she was like, this was really great. They used masks and they sung and they did all sorts of these things, and I would, that's what I love, and that's what they should have here in Albany. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's great. And then I was like, just so happened going through Facebook, and come to present time, I was going through Facebook, and I saw this article about this play on Emmett Till here in Albany, and I went, and I heard it was like lost. I was like, wait a second, this is it. This is the place she was talking about. I remember I wrote, like, I can't. Like, as soon as I saw it, I clicked on it. Like, I went online. I needed to read this article, and I saw it, and
I think I wrote on a comment. I was like, "Hey, I don't see it. Where is it?" You're like, "Tomorrow. It's coming up tomorrow." I was like, "All right." And as soon as I saw it, right, yeah. And then I saw it. Just read it, and I just, I thought it was so beautifully written and really detailed, and it wasn't just facts, but it was opinion about the effect that this show had on the environment, and I just connected to it, and I said, "Wow, this was." My aunt was sitting there when I saw Toni Morrison play. This is crazy. So it kind of resonated with me and connected with me on that level.
But sorry, did you? I mean, the idea that obviously we're talking about issues with white control and the lack of roles for Black people today, which. I'm sorry. I'm going to attempt math. What, 40, almost 40 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. Anyway, or less, a little less. But anyway, obviously it was worse. And to think about, when I was reading the story, and even when we first heard about it, was imagining what it was like for this author who clearly was celebrated. People knew she was super talented, but was coming from a much different world. I mean, she'd been here, but she, studied at Howard.
Right.
She was obviously much more forward-thinking than a lot of people in Albany because of the way she studied. And she's a Black woman who understood white and Black power dynamics and institutional racism and all that stuff. And to think about what she might have gone through here trying to stage it was just, my head was swimming with sort of like, what are we going to find out? And what are the attitudes that are going to be attached to this? And in some ways, the things that Katie heard were, I expected them, but I also was hoping they wouldn't be there.
There's this thing that Black folks do, and we talk about. I like to call it the big deep breath, and it's always, and it happens when we hear a story that's centered around Black people, and it's just and you hold it to find out what happened. It's like, two young Black boys are arrested by police, or a person, a Black person working in an all-white environment, and we take the breath and we always wait. And with a story like that, and you always go, and you take that deep breath because you want it to succeed. You want her to succeed. It's Toni Morrison. But unfortunately, what the reality is. What the reality is now, and then go back all those years, has to be 10 times worse back then. So you kind of, wow, she did this play. What did she have to go through when she was doing this play? And it unfortunately didn't surprise me. And to say that about a place where I live and was raised and I love, it's hard to say it doesn't surprise me.
What surprised me wasn't that it had happened, but that no one had thought about it critically since. That the narrative has been maintained, that she was difficult, that she just was so demanding.
She was inexperienced.
Yeah, inexperience was that one.
That was surprising because it seems, and that's what the professor who spoke to me sort of about her legacy at Howard and her career, is that most people who know her work and have studied her as a writer, as a person in the arts, know that she was super involved in theater in her youth, and even when she went back to teach there, and was writing for theater, was participating on stage in a bunch of different roles, and just for, I guess maybe it could get lost in but then she became this author and won all these great prizes, so that becomes part of her story. But it just, I guess, for people to keep telling me she had no idea what she was doing, she's a fish out of water, was like, how, I don't know, that was the most interesting thing to me to be lost in, and just be like, well, how did nobody figure that out or know what she was coming from even after all this time? Like,
because it shows that no matter how high success you can obtain, being black in this country, being black in this world, creative or not, there's still that sort of ball and chain that you have.
yeah. It's like, oh, it was a miracle for her to be this good at one thing. She couldn't possibly be that good at
I mean,
few
multiple
of them.
things. That's
Or like,
preposterous.
wow, like, you know, it's always that thing where it's like, yes, she was the first black woman to win a Nobel Prize in literature.
Right.
And it's like, there it is. And that's,
She
there it
was
is.
the first black woman to win a Nobel Prize in literature, but she was a fish out of water.
Right,
She was difficult.
right.
And she was difficult, and she was angry, and she couldn't work with her.
Where did that anger come from?
I mean, she did all this, but I mean, they still say stuff about Martin Luther King. I mean, out of all the great things this man did, they'll say, well, I mean, he was a great orator, but he didn't, fill in the blank. So it's unfortunately, we live in a time at the moment where how high the ladder is for you, that connection of that ball and chain is still connected to you.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that's how and it's always something.
Yeah.
You could be overexperienced. She could have been overexperienced and have directed 50 million shows, and it would have been something else.
Yeah.
Well, maybe she knows. Maybe she needs to retire from doing all this great. So it'll be something like that. So
Her
there's
greatness
always,
has tainted the
maybe the greatness is too much.
Which is
for her
actually sort of
to
what's
have.
been put forward in some of the interviews. Like, it's like, well, she
I
knew what
believe
she
it.
wanted too much.
I believe
and
it.
she wouldn't let it go.
She was too great.
Yeah, and the idea that the idea of why would she be difficult? Let's think about this. Like, I mean, besides the environment she's working in, surrounded by white people who, she probably inherently does not trust to get her vision, and knows didn't grow up with all the things that she's burdened with and wants to say about this play. She has to fight for her vision, and that's what all great artists do. And most of them who are white men and authors who fight for their vision, or difficult, or brood and drink, or brood and beat
are
their wives,
mean and
or
awful people.
are brooding and celebrated for sticking
Like,
to their
oh,
guns.
yes, John Lennon.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, what an artist.
Think about it. It's like two things. It's sort of who has the control to think about how the Capital District, our little piece of the world, had Toni Morrison.
Oh, it's insane.
The Toni Morrison, like, be here, not come here to visit and go off. Was here
Teaching.
in it, teaching and performing and directing a play, and the powers that be didn't promote it. I didn't know, even when she unfortunately passed away, I never knew. I mean, promote that she was here, but never told anybody that or not told anybody, but it wasn't as much as it could have been, promoted as much as it could have been, that
It's
she
like
was here with the show.
a few sentences in like her write up, like in like their TU
Right.
after she had died, it, like sort of mentioned that she had done this play, and that's what was so much of the mystery for us going into this, was like, why, like you've said before, why, for an area who like gets someone here for 3 days, and it's like, whoa,
What don't we
what's
know
his
about
name?
Bradley Cooper's time?
Yeah,
in
or what's his
Schenectady?
name at St. Rose? The guy who does the Jimmy Fallon.
Oh, Jimmy
right?
Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon went to
Excuse me. Jimmy Fallon was an intern at Metroland and a secretary for a while. We know everything
and
about that.
the Jonas
We know
Brothers.
everything. Jonas Brothers got a street.
I'm like,
a street after the Jonas
or like,
Brothers.
oh, Aquafina went to fucking.
And
Albany,
I know
like-
Aquafina. I work with
Yeah,
Aquafina.
I mean,
And then it turns out I did know Aquafina. I'm embarrassed. I did work with her. And I'm embarrassed now
But it's
because
like-
everyone's like, I work with her. Sorry.
It's like these people are here.
What she called you out. So I really want to thank David.
Oh, it was.
At
Don't
the
worry.
Collaborative.
I was based up here, and she. I only saw her a few times because it was down in the city. I commuted, so that's why I didn't know. It's not because I was.
No, it's all good. But I mean, it's really, it shows you who has the power still to do and say what they want to say about whomever.
And who matters
Exactly.
to this
And who
area.
matters. I couldn't believe that. I thought it was a joke. I thought it was like from the Onion or something. It was like, yo, Albany, New York, named a street after the Jonas Brothers today.
He's
It's
like,
this
oh
is a
yeah,
joke.
my
Look at
daughters
this.
are pretty into them. And it's like, what?
This has got to be funny.
I mean, from what I understand, the booking agents tried it like at a lot of cities, and Albany was the only one that
Yeah,
did.
of course
That's-
we were.
Oh, Albany.
Well, that's the thing. It's like we're so desperate for clout.
Right. And then
God.
we had it. It's like, well, hold on. We
Yeah.
certain clout.
Yeah.
Well, because she intimidated and upstaged people who had the power, and
There
so
it is.
then the story is, it's. But
And I think maybe too, she just decided not to continue with it. So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
hey, we
yeah,
had this
unfortunately.
we had this play, but she actually ended up destroying everything and hated it. So
Right.
we can't. It's like they don't want to claim that because
Right.
it doesn't feel like a success to them, even though it's like. But it was attempted and tried, and
Right. And it shows you how scary the world is, because that's just a micro experience, a mini micro experience in the macro history of Black people in the state
attempting art.
and in this country, and only in art,
Yeah.
just art alone.
Yeah.
Right. And to see how much it was just sort of covered up and washed away and
Yeah.
forcefully forgotten about, and of this great woman that did so many great things, and still it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
It just wasn't enough for all of it to be heard. And it just goes to show you, like, what else
Yeah.
this sort of ocean depth size history that just is purposely washed away, and we'll pick this and pick that. We like this, we don't like that. I want this sounds good. We'll retell from the things that we picked. And it's a scary thought of what's really happened and what's really out there from people, and what we only
Yeah.
get back.
And another big part of it was like talking to Dr. Williams again, the professor, she had brought up that people, the audience at the time, probably weren't ready to be forced to sit and watch a story about violence against young Black men for like just being killed for nothing, because the story was more not necessarily about Emmett's story, but about the larger
Yeah, I mean,
issue that
right.
was facing like all people and people who were being forgotten.
Right.
She didn't
and
leave it there. I
swept
mean, that's
under the
what's so,
rug.
like, the idea that she then has the woman come out and sort of say, why were you staring at white women? And I mean, she took it
Right.
to another level. It wasn't
Right.
just Emmett Till. It was about, I mean, it was, for now, it would be seen as provocative and taking steps maybe you shouldn't. And she was willing to go there then. And yeah, I mean, it's a play that seems to me, it was like, I keep reading that it was confusing or painful or whatever, and it feels like modern performance art, in that,
Yeah.
like, you're supposed to feel awkward and pained
Yeah.
because it's the worst
It's
thing
not
in the
being
world.
served
Right.
to you
I
on a
mean,
silver platter.
yeah.
It's just
Right.
like,
Yeah, how I want and choose it to be served to me, and if I need to be in control of that. And if I'm not in control of it, then it's not professional, or it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, and it's such a strange viewpoint, but unfortunately holds much sway in the world we live in today.
yeah.
Deep sigh.
Deep sigh. On to exciting.
So what else is going on?
What else is this?
Are you still doing classes at Rudy?
I am. So every Saturday, 12:30, I'll be at Rooted. That's really been going good. I've been having a lot of fun and just meeting new people, working with new people, and sort of, seeing them work out stuff that they're going through, and seeing them sort of get those aha moments. I had a couple classes ago, I had this one young lady was in the class, and she was kind of working out this sort of situation, and she kind of found this whole new viewpoint to look at it after she took the class, and it was such this emotional sort of experience that we've had together, and being there, are little gifts, not little, but are gifts that I get every time that I'm a part of that class. So it's been such a great experience being down there at Rooted. Rooted has been such a godsend to the area, and I'm so happy to be, just even if it's a small part, just to be part of that. But I'm still there every Saturday, 12:30 p.m. At Rooted Therapeutic Theater.
And so the meeting's coming up. Do you have plans for the rest of the year? Are you working on anything?
Several things. Let's see. So the meeting's coming up. Yep. So we're doing that. February 21st, I'm going to be premiering a stage reading, a one-night-only stage reading of my play that I wrote called When the Sun Rises and the Walls Come Down. So that's going to be at Youth FX February 21st at 7 p.m. And we're doing this. It's a free performance. We're looking at just a $10 donation if you can, and all the proceeds from those donations go to the full production in summer. So a full-on production is going to happen towards the end of summer. So I'm really excited about both parts of this project. But yeah, I wrote that myself. I finally kind of sat and took the plunge to finish writing that. And it went through several edits and several 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. Sort of aha moments. But I'm really proud about how that's happened. We have a great cast. I'm really excited for this cast. We have Jamel Mosley is going to be in a starring role in it.
Very cool.
Yep. Khalil Hamilton is also in a starring role. Meg Afonso, Jermaine Wells, Tom Templeton, Jonathan Lahas as well. And Ashley Whiteside, who's also a instructor at Rooted, she's going to be in the show as well too. So I'm really excited for this project.
I mean, I know there's been talk about, and obviously effort to do more between Rooted and Youth FX, and those are two great programs in Albany South End, and it's nice that can work and serve people as well as create things. But can you tell us a little bit about the play?
Sure. So the little summary of the play is about Sean, who is this teenage boy who lost his older brother Malik, and it's the night before his funeral, Malik's funeral, and he's trying to write this eulogy, this speech about his older brother. But they really had a disconnect while he was alive. They didn't really click. Malik was this extrovert person who was always out and about, and everybody loved him. And Sean was this sort of introverted person and was very kind of closed in and drawn in and whatnot. So he doesn't know what to write about his brother. So as he's writing the speech, his brother Malik comes back as a ghost, and to Sean's sort of disbelief at first, and they sort of ensue this conversation about life and love and music and art and their opinions on different things and death and what that means to die and also how to let go. So that's a little bit, it went through different phases. It was quite interesting. So I had this idea a couple years ago, and the first idea I had for it was going to be like this anonymous group, this like Black people anonymous group where like, this circle of Black people talk about their life, about, being Black in the world and this sort of safe space. But I was like, no, I don't want to be that on the nose about it. So it sort of changed to more, I wanted to have a more supernatural effect to it. So it changed to like this nightclub. And it was like this nightclub where before, like, every time a Black person dies, this is how they before they go off to wherever they're going, like they say like the one thing they always wanted to say, or they do the one thing that they always wanted to do in this space. I was like, still too on the nose. So for a while, I didn't know really how I wanted to tackle it. And then I had this idea of make it more of just a conversation where it's the Black culture of of it isn't so much on the nose or on the head, but it's through just the conversation. And once I had that idea, I took off with it, and I've been writing like a madman. But I think somebody was speaking to me, because it wasn't a point where I was like, I can't. It was constantly just, I mean, I've made mistakes and took things out and stuff like that, but I definitely saw beginning, middle, and end of this show clear and present. So I knew somebody was, up above was talking to me and telling me that this needed to get told. I got the idea of the show, even through its original forms, was that one summer, I believe it was 2016, when like all those black people were dying, like crazy, back to back, through police violence, and it was like a weird, like it happens a lot, but this one summer it was like every week or 2 weeks it was like back to back, and people were like, hey, what do you want us to do? And they interviewed a woman that saw what happened to this one incident, and I'm gonna paraphrase like crazy, and she said something along the lines of like damn, you can't like live gracefully. If you black, you can't live gracefully, and looks like you can't even die gracefully either. And I think it's like the body was left out. I know it wasn't Michael Brown, but it was similar sort of situation where like they just kind of like left the body and wouldn't let nobody near it or something like that. And it stuck out. And like I heard it, and it kind of stayed with me. And I was, I gotta put this down somewhere. I gotta change this to something. So I wanted to create a show about it, and I think the basics, the basic elements of the show is about how to say goodbye to somebody and how to let them go gracefully. If it's like, if I can give you a quick elevator pitch about it. And I think that really is something I wanted to be shown in this.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, it sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, and I'm sure we'll have more pretty soon about your work as well. So,
right. Oh, I'm also I forgot. I'm also so I just got into. I'm in Curtain Call's production of An Act of God, directed by Patrick White, as well. So it's going to premiere, I believe, end of March, beginning of April.
Yep.
So look out for that as well. And then we're directing the full production of the meeting, from the stage production that's going to happen this next month to the full production in the beginning of June.
Okay.
Too as well. So look out. But I have my acting page, Acting with Aaron, is up on Facebook and Instagram. So I always keep that updated with schedules of things, so performances and things like that. So I always keep that up. But that's great. Well, thank you guys so much for being a part of the interview.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. They don't. I don't get a lot of times to talk about myself, but you guys let me do it with grace. So thank you. So this has been the Collaborative. I've been Aaron Moore. I'm sorry. I'm not behaving. And I'm sorry.
I think that's the perfect way out, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
come on.
You said it, not me.
Thank you.
No, thank you guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.